Good afternoon and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news updates, debates and my opinions and transfer news throughout the summer. We've got plenty to talk about today. I hope you're doing well. It's a Friday. It's the weekend. And hopefully we're not going to get as wound up as we did in the final 20 minutes of yesterday's show. Plenty of you here. Tamina, Binyam, Vivi Vlad is back in the building. Vlad, it is good to see you. Let me bring those comments up there. Willis, Ross Lawman, Mia, Sam, Bordsey, Carter. I'm on time for a YouTube stream. We love to see it. Tom McFadden, Ryan Henderson, Charlie Howells. It is good to see you. Today we're talking about Gyokeres or Sesko. Who is Arsenal's priority? Because there are conflicting reports on that. We're going to talk about Ademola Lookman, who's come up in conversation around Arsenal today. Joao Pedro as well. Seems like he's on the move. Arsenal previously being linked to him. And also want to talk about the kind of the rage bait that is being flung out. What's it called in fishing when you what's it called? Literally a normal word. What's that called? Cast. The rage baiting is being cast by the media and by rival fans. And Arsenal fans need to stop nibbling. We need to stop nibbling. Oslo Guna, good to see you as well. Cast. Cast was the word. That was the one. What rage bait? Well, if you've not seen the rage bait, then you're fine. You're fine. I probably just spent too much time on Twitter, to be completely honest with you. But look, let's start with Victor Gyokeres and Benjamin Sesko, right? Because the rumors, not the rumors, but the information started towards the end of yesterday's stream. So we'll start with what that was, which was Team News and Ticks, who said Arsenal's priority for striker is Benjamin Sesko and that his alternative is Victor Gyokeres. So that was Team News and Ticks, right? Later on in the day, Goldberg CFC. Now, this is a Chelsea fan that supposedly has connections. You know, he's a Chelsea in the know as much as Team News and Ticks is an Arsenal in the know. But he said on his stream last night, I was told by two very good sources that I trust extraordinarily that Victor Gyokeres is absolutely Arsenal's number one striker target. There's a lot of people inside Arsenal, including Andrea Berta, that want him, and it could be a lot further down the line than is being reported. So Tinat saying Sesko's the priority. Goldberg is saying Gyokeres is the priority. David Ornstein, it seems that Arsenal are deciding between which of Benjamin Sesko or Victor Gyokeres to pursue as their preferred target. They're both under consideration, but it's hard to know who is higher. There are many factors that contribute to such decisions being made. And that is probably the truth. Tom, thank you very, very much for the €2.49 super chat. Would top my... I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. I would do something if we got Pedro. Yeah. Look, we'll talk about Pedro in a bit. We will talk about Pedro in a bit. But I appreciate the 249. I'm with Ornstein. I don't really know much about Goldberg. TNAT has a lot of work to do to redeem the trust within the community. And to be honest, I don't think Arsenal will have fully committed to either of those two strikers until we know what happens on Sunday. Until we know whether or not Newcastle are in the Champions League and therefore whether or not Alexander Isak could still be available, I don't think they'll have made a decision on Sesko or Victor Gyokeres. That's my opinion. I don't know. I would trust Ornstein on this. Ornstein is always cautious. When Ornstein speaks, you listen. But none of the other people that I also trust at the moment have really said that we've got a preference one way or the other. So the good thing is, and this is what I think I said yesterday, we're going to go for one of them. So whether it is Sesko or Victor Gyokeres or Alexander Isak, I am happy either way because, I'm the captain of the Victor Gyokeres steam train. I'm also a massive fan of Benjamin Sesko and think he's got an incredibly high ceiling. And obviously Alexander Isak is one of the best strikers on the planet. So, we're in a good place. At least all of them are on the table, you know? And I saw today, by the way, unbelievable. I saw today, Dusan Vlahovic has apparently said if Arsenal went for him, he would drop his bags and move to England immediately. Or not drop his bags, pack his bags. Basically, Dusan Vlahovic wants to move to Arsenal. Well, you had your chance, pal. You had your chance, didn't you? But when we were fighting for top 4, you didn't want to come. So we went and got Gabby Jesus because you wanted to go to Juventus. And look at how that worked out for you. So, yeah, Dusan Vlahovic, no chance, pal. No chance. Let's get to 100 likes. Yeah, there's 150 of you here. If you could click the like button, it would massively help me early on. You lot, the ones that are here, right now, it massively helps if you click the like button early on in the stream. So please do that. It is free. And of course, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Isak, Rodrigo, Zubi, would that be a good enough window or would we need more? I mean, that's rage bait, surely. That's surely Isak, Rodrigo alone is that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. We're not doing Isak and Rodrigo in the same window. But yes, that would be that would basically be the best window you could get. It would be the best striker on the market, the best winger on the market, and Zubimendi, who's a defensive midfielder that Real Madrid wanted, Bayern Munich wanted, and Liverpool wanted. It doesn't get much better. It doesn't get much better. People need to remember that the window doesn't open until June 20th, literally a month away. Nothing needs to be done until then. Obviously, would love a Here We Go tomorrow, but people are acting like it's deadline day. Well, yes, you are right. You are right. People are acting as if, the window's about to shut, which is crazy. But I think the window does open, though, from the 1st until the 10th before the Club World Cup. I'm not exactly sure how that window works, but I know that the vast majority of countries have all agreed to that window. So I think there is going to be a window open from the 1st until the 10th. I don't know if it's only Club World Cup clubs that are allowed to use that window, but I would assume not. I would assume everyone is allowed to use that window. So apparently our budget is much smaller than what people think. If we sell Martinelli, we might have a 200 million budget. No one knows what our budget is. No one knows what our budget is. Last summer, our budget was going to be 250 million quid, and then we spent 100 million quid. So no one really knows. Footy Judge Mo is here. What a legend. Footy Judge Mo. Like the video, people. Listen to the man. Mo, I hope you're doing well. Is it just Club World Cup clubs, then everyone else June 16th? I'm not sure. Does anyone legitimately have information on that? Does anyone have legitimate information on that? See story about Nwaneri to Chelsea? No, the only sort of story I saw, there was a story today about Ethan Nwaneri. It came from Graham Bailey with TBR Football, which is about as reliable as my Virgin Media Internet, who is claiming that Nwaneri is not close to signing a new deal and loads of clubs want him and Arsenal are worried that he's going to leave. No one reputable or reliable has mentioned anything to do with it. So surely it's completely unfair if it's only Club World Cup clubs. Yeah, I assume it's not. There you go. There we go. All clubs. 100 likes, people, quickly. Yes, please. Click 100. We're up to 200 viewers. Only need half of you. Just half of you to be great people. That's all we need. All Premier League and EFL clubs, along with those participating in the Club World Cup, can use the early transfer window. So there you go. There you go. It will be interesting how many clubs opt to get as much of their business done as possible in that little window. Because if you do, it's a big advantage. If you get your business done in that little window, you've then got that player has the entire summer to prepare to make that move. They'll go on holiday, of course, unless you're buying them from a Club World Cup club, in which case, I guess you can't. You can't, we wouldn't be able to buy Rodrigo in that little window. But, yeah, I don't know. Thank God Graham Bailey's not reliable. Got nervous for a minute. Yeah, no, it's waffle. The last legitimate news we heard about Nwaneri was back in March, and it was that Nwaneri was very, very close to signing a 5-year deal that would take him to 2030. but that to sign the deal, he has to be 18. So that was what we'd heard previously. You will see some PSR transfers for sure. Very true. Yeah, there will be PSR transfers knocking around left, right, and centre. That is true. Bukayo Saka back in the England squad. Thoughts? Yeah, unsurprising. Tuchel needs to see Bukayo Saka. Not that he should need to see Bukayo Saka to believe that he's the starting right winger, but just to, fit Saka into exactly the system that he wants to play. Declan Rice is there as well. Miles Lewis-Skelly is there as well. Again, the Miles Lewis-Skelly one, by the way, is interesting for the people that still don't believe that Miles Lewis-Skelly will be England's left back going forwards. Thomas Tuchel has been unbelievably has given unbelievable praise to Miles Lewis-Skelly, right? And a lot of people said, no, he's only there because no one else is. Livramento, as an example, is not in the squad, and he's in the under-21 squad for the European Championships. Any player that Thomas Tuchel didn't really need that's under-21 is with the European under-21 squad. But Miles Lewis-Skelly is with the senior team for the World Cup qualifier. That's how important he already is to Thomas Tuchel. No Man United or Man City players in the squad. Yeah, Kyle Walker on a technicality is still a Man City player. But no, you're right. No Foden, no Grealish. Obviously, John Stones is injured. And there's no Man United player that gets anywhere near it, really. Kobbie Mainoo, if he was being used properly, would have a good shout, I think, if you look at some of the midfielders. Harry Maguire, maybe. But Tuchel loves the Arsenal players. Don't know if that's a good thing. Yeah, he does. He's been very, very encouraging towards Ben White as well. He explained why Ben White's not in the squad again. I think Ben White's actually due to become a father during that international break, which was one of the reasons. The other reason is that he's basically still not fully fit. But he was, very praising of him. Mason Mount and Luke Shaw. Yeah, there's no one else for it to be. Is Vieira going to leave? Probably. I would imagine Vieira leaves. Nuno Tavares has all as good as left to Lazio. Lazio are going to trigger the buyout clause they had for him. I believe that clause is £5 million. And then there's some sort of sell-on that we get as well. So we're getting $5 million back for him. Then we get a sell-on of some amount of money. Marquinhos is coming back to us. Remember Marquinhos? So he's currently at Cruzeiro. Cruzeiro had a €4 million obligation to buy him if he played X amount of games. He is one game away from hitting that number. And I don't think they're going to play him again. They don't want him. So, yeah, Marquinhos is coming back. They go 40% sell-on for Tavares. And that's good, by the way, because Lazio are going to trigger it because they believe that there are lots of other teams that are interested in Tavares, which might mean they trigger it and immediately sell him in the summer, because that is something that you can do. So they could trigger the buy clause, sell him, and then we immediately get 40% of whatever they sell him for as well, which would be interesting. Literally the only Brazilian that Edu signed for us. Yeah, listen, I think it's very easy to kind of criticize Edu and be hopeful of Berta. And I don't want to fall into that trap of being reactive like that. But you do hear, as we go into this window, there's lots of talk about the amount of work and the amount of conversations that Andrea Berta is having that we seemingly just didn't have with Edu. And that actually perfectly leads me on to the next bit about Ademola Lookman. And this came from Plettigol today. Plettigol said, Arsenal are currently very active in the market, especially when it comes to wingers. Talks with agents and clubs are in full swing. And of course, that backs up something Hand of Arsenal said a few days ago, which was that Andrea Berta's had at least 15 different conversations with different attacking players. He said, Rodrigo remains highly rated. Ademola Lookman is also still a topic due to his versatility. Andrea Berta is holding numerous talks. Now, Lookman's an interesting one because he's different. If you look at the kind of, especially the age profile of the other wingers that we've been linked to, they're all in their early 20s. Nico Williams is 21, 22. You've got Gittins. Bino Gittins is like 20. Actually, how old is Nico Williams? Nico Williams is 22. 22. Turns 23. Whereas Lookman is... how old is Lookman? 27. Turning 28 in October. So Ademola Lookman is an older player. He's a more experienced player. And to be honest, his output is better. You know, we were talking yesterday about Rodrigo's goal-scoring numbers and how Rodrigo has scored more than Leao and Kvaratskhelia and Nico Williams and Bino Gittins. Ademola Lookman has scored significantly more. Ademola Lookman in the league alone this season has 15 goals and 5 assists in 30 matches. Stop being GA merchants. No, it's not just about being a GA merchant. Like, we are actively looking for players that are going to score goals. Like, there's, you know, the one thing we have missed this season, and if you're looking at Martinelli as an example, like, it is scoring goals. And in all competitions this season, Ademola Lookman scored 20 goals in 39 games. So he definitely has scored more, and scored more per 90 especially, than the other three. I've always found him to be a bit hot and cold. Obviously, the reality is we don't tend to watch Atalanta, or I don't tend to watch Atalanta outside of Champions League games or the Europa League final last year, where, of course, he scored a hat-trick, wasn't it, that he scored last season. But if you had to make a clean slate out of a squad, what players would you be glad to leave in the summer? I'll come back to that because that's a bit of a long one. But yeah, so ultimately, Ademola Lookman is another name that's on that list. And that, for me, would be, again, that's like your Trossard replacement. I think at that age, if you sell Trossard and you bring Lookman in, that makes sense. I still think we go more for a Nico Williams or I mean, Rodrigo's 24, but when can Arsenal announce Zubimendi? Not until the transfer window's open, at the very least. So it's the same with, like, I mean, actually, I think we're further away from Zubimendi still technically than Liverpool are with Jeremy Frimpong, as an example. But again, nothing has been announced on Jeremy Frimpong. Same with Huijsen to Real Madrid. That came out today as well, by the way. Apparently, Arsenal were genuinely, like, hot on Huijsen. Like, we proposed a good financial package to Huijsen. We convinced him, or tried to convince him, that he would get a lot of game time. Be interesting to see actually kind of how that was going to work in terms of what we actually told him was the plan. But interesting in the sense that clearly there is money there. And this is the thing where, you know, I saw a thing saying that maybe, like the guy said before, if we sold Martinelli, we'd have like 200 million. And we value Martinelli at 50 million. And that combines with another thing where I've seen supposedly Arsenal only have 150 million to spend this summer. I just can't imagine that that's true. If we've already got 50 million committed to Zubimendi, you'd then be talking about another 50 million committed to Dean Huijsen. Well, then that would leave you with 50 million quid to spend on the attack. And we know we're going for a striker, and we know we're going for a left winger. So I don't buy into that idea that we don't have that much money to spend. Have you seen Ekitike? And what do you think of him? 22 goals, 12 assists in 48 games. Yeah, look, I've seen a fair bit of Ekitike. He's not top of my list, to be honest, just because it's only one season. And don't get me wrong, it's a great season, and he could be, you know, he could be a guy that goes on and does very well. But I don't think we're in the position to take that gamble just yet. And even in terms of, like, I'd prefer a Benjamin Sesko to Ekitike just because he's done it for 3 years rather than one. I think it's a difficult one. Rather have Wharton than Zubi. You'd be paying double the money for Wharton, though, in fairness. Don't get me wrong, so would I. I would love Adam Wharton. I think he's a £100 million player, to be honest. Logical Nonsense, welcome. Did you see the Orny bomber on Wirtz? No, has that just come out? Or is that old, or has that just come out? What's the latest thing Ornstein said? Oh, there you go. Liverpool given huge boost in Florian Wirtz pursuit. Bayern Munich believe the 22-year-old is on course for Anfield if he leaves Bayer Leverkusen this summer. Clubs would still need to agree a deal, not a formality, but Germany International favours Liverpool. Wow. Wow. They're moving. Do you know what? Credit to them. Credit to them, because previously they themselves, and even Man City in recent times, have been guilty of winning the league and then settling with the squad that they've got. And that is, if early in the window they've done Frimpong, Gyokeres and Florian Wirtz, that's impressive. That is impressive. It is. Club has to go big this summer after going small last summer. Otherwise, they risk wasting the primes of the core players in the squad, or worse, losing them. I agree. And I think Arteta agrees. Everything that Arteta has said in his press conferences recently, particularly yesterday, was that Arsenal have done really well to get to the point that we're at now, to the point where we're expected to win either the Premier League or the Champions League. But now we've got to go and do it. And to go and do it, you have to bring in the best players. And this is the thing, you know. Like, where do you stand on that? We should go for Bilal El-Khanous. That's a big difference. Liverpool go out and get Florian Wirtz. We go out and get Bilal El-Khanous. You know? But there are so many, you know, we need a left winger and we need a striker. It's tough. It's tough. Talking about what he said like he hasn't lied before. Yeah, but that would be a weird thing to lie about, because normally when Arteta lies about things like he's happy with the squad, that's a logical lie, because he's obviously trying to protect his own players. When he's coming out and saying we need to be the best team in the transfer market and we need to bring in the best players, there's no reason to lie about that in the same way. So Rodrigo is our Wirtz, though? Yeah, very possibly. How much are they asking for Wirtz? About 100 million euros, I think it was. About 100 million euros, so whatever that is. Pool movement should really give the club a huge kick up the ass for transfers this summer. Well, that is true, actually. The other way of looking at it is Arsenal may well be looking at Liverpool, making these big early moves and going, we are going to have to act big if we're going to keep up. That is true. Wirtz is valued by Leverkusen at 120 mil. Yeah, I think it'll be around 100 mil. It's good to see Unk back streaming again. It's good to be back streaming. Like I said, if you could like and subscribe, please do so. The next bit of news, we kind of moved away from Lookman there, but look, I think Lookman's an intro. Do you know what we'll do, actually? Do you know what we'll do? We will just have a greenery check on Lookman. I don't feel like we've had a greenery check on Lookman in a while. We'll have a greenery. We'll have a look. Of course, we'll have a look. Per 90, this is Ademola Lookman, and this is relative to wingers and attacking midfielders in Serie A. 0.61 goals per game. Green. From an expected goals of 0.42, by the way. So he overperforms on his XG, which is something that we need. Scores the occasional penalty, no problem. Shots on target. Very happy to take a shot. Expected assists, by the way, expected assists, 0.3 per game, only actually getting 0.2 per game. So he is a creator as well. Pass accuracy is pretty low for what we would normally be looking for, but if he's trying to create things, that's not the end of the world. Chance creation, exceptionally green. Successful crosses, very green. Cross accuracy is pretty green. Successful dribbles is very green, although the dribble success percentage is pretty low. So maybe not actually that good at taking it past players, but he tries it a lot. Plenty of touches, which is, of course, a key of Arsenal with the amount of possession that we have. And then the defensive side of things. Aerial duels won, by the way. That is impressive. That is impressive. But overall, that's a nice amount of greenery. That is a nice amount of greenery. I quite like that. So there you go. Ooh, what's going on here? There we go. Cherky's not that guy. Yeah, I'm not that in on Cherky, to be honest. Like, a lot of people are red hot on Ryan Cherky, and I think he's a good player. I don't think it's what we need. What is Lookman's valuation? Could he be the third priority attacker? If he's the starting left wing, it's a bit underwhelming. I actually don't know how much they want for Lookman. It's a Serie A club, so it won't be as much, to be honest. In my opinion, if we don't go for Rodrigo, the only alternative is Nico Williams. Well, a lot of work's been done on Nico Williams. A lot of work has been done on him. Barcelona are basically out of the race for him. So if he does move, it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up at Arsenal. It wouldn't. Whose stat was that? That was Ademola Lookman. That was Ademola Lookman in Serie A this season. Lookman's a baller. He's much better than Nico Williams. Clearly, a lot of you guys don't watch Atalanta. Lookman is ridiculous. Goals, assists, creativity. I mean, like I said, I don't watch a huge amount of Atalanta unless they're in the Champions League or the Europa League. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Didn't he fall out with the manager after the Bruges game? He did, yeah. When they got knocked out of the Champions League, there was quite a big falling out. And that was the thing. Outside of what Plettigol said about Lookman, there have been lots of reports that Lookman is going to move somewhere this summer, or is definitely looking to move somewhere this summer. And then finally, on Joao Pedro, Fabrizio Romano tweeted not long before we went live, Joao Pedro, one to watch in the upcoming weeks, as revealed this week. Now, when he previously revealed that, he mentioned Arsenal as one of the clubs that had shown interest in Joao Pedro. And that's the only links that Arsenal have had with Joao Pedro, has always been, you know, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and others are looking. It's never been Arsenal, you know, in the way that with the Rodrigo links, it's been like specifically Arsenal. With Joao Pedro, it's only ever been with a load of other clubs. And interestingly, GE Globo or G Globo, whatever they are, they came out today and they said Chelsea have started negotiations with Brighton to sign Joao Pedro and has signalled an offer of £50 million. Chelsea want to have him for the Club World Cup. So that could be one that wraps up pretty quickly. Chelsea supposedly properly in negotiations for him. And I would quite happily see him go to Chelsea. Do you know what? I don't even think he works well for Chelsea. That's the crazy thing. I don't want him. Well, I wouldn't say I don't want him. There are a lot of players that I want before him. I think he would get 4 or 5 red cards a season at Arsenal, truth be told. I don't know exactly where he fits. And I know with the Cunha links as well, we've been looking for a player that can play off the left, almost like a 9.5 almost, that can occupy that space between left wing and striker, and he fits that. That's where I don't know how he works for Chelsea, because Chelsea need a striker, like an out-and-out striker. They don't need another Nkunku, right? And they're desperately trying to get rid of Nkunku this summer. So, yeah, I don't really understand why that would be a big one for them. But apparently it is. And they do just seem to love getting Brighton players. I mean, literally, that would be what? Like the 4th? Is that the 4th Brighton player? Sanchez, Cucurella, Caicedo, Joao Pedro, and they took the manager. Crazy. If we don't get Rodrigo, it should be Lookman if he's so good, trust me. I don't necessarily disagree. We need tough, seasoned players. I want players like Rodrigo, Eze, Mbuemo, Gyokeres, Isak. I agree. It's one of the most underrated parts, I think, of getting Rodrigo. I don't think you can underestimate the value of playing 260 games for Real Madrid. Like, he has more big game experience than any Arsenal player, pretty much. Especially now that Jorginho's going. You know, and I don't think that can be underestimated. If you want to drop, if you're going to drop 50 to 60 million on a left winger like Pedro or Williams, then you can just get Rodrigo for 75. Exactly. Wirtz to Liverpool, damn. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Second Ornstein Bomber just doubled down on Wirtz. Wow, this is moving quickly then. 2 minutes ago. Florian Wirtz was in northwest England recently to house hunt before potential Liverpool switch, should it proceed. That was not related to Man City. Bayern Munich had been informed of the playmaker's preference for Liverpool, as Sasha Talvieri reports. That is Crazy. What a statement of ambition. What a statement of ambition that is going into the summer. He because even when Liverpool don't necessarily need a 10, like he'll drift to the left. If you got Salah one side, you got him drifting to the left. Fair enough. This is like their Rice versus game changer. Yeah, he really is. He really is. He's only 22 years old. Fair enough. Rodrigo or Isak is a must if Liverpool does that. Kinda. It feels that way, you know? If they go out and make a massive statement signing like that, we've got to be doing the same. We have to be doing the same. We need 6 signings, and I want to see proven players. The time for potential is over. We was told in 06 moving to the Emirates will compete on and off the pitch for every single way. We've done nothing. I wouldn't say we've done nothing. You're right. We moved from Highbury to the Emirates to compete for the Premier League and the Champions League, right? We didn't move to compete for FA Cups or Europa Leagues or whatever. We moved to be competing for the Premier League and the Champions League season in, season out. And I would argue, all right, 09, but really, since the move, this is the first time where consecutively across seasons we have competed. All right, this season we fell big time short in the Premier League, but we did compete for the Champions League. I'd say we're the closest we've been to following through on that. But you are right. If we want to kick on and carry on and actually win one of them, we need to go big. We need to go big. Otherwise, what was the point? Do you think Alonso convinces Rodrigo to stay? I don't know if it's in Alonso's best interests to convince Rodrigo to stay, because Real Madrid don't spend that much money. They spend so much on wages that on actual transfers, they don't spend much money. And they've just dropped 50 million on Dean Huijsen. So if he does want to spend money, like getting an actual right winger, we know they also want a 10 apparently, like a proper 10. Like, to get that money, I think he's going to have to sell someone like Rodrigo. And Rodrigo's the one that's kind of, the easiest to sell. Do fans need to put more pressure on management and ownership, or do you think they already know what we expect from them? They know what we expect from them. They don't care. Like the brutal reality is, the Cronkies don't actually care. They want to win things because they probably make more money if we win things. But they don't actually care if the fan base doesn't rate a transfer window. They care if the fan base is doing genuine damage to the brand. The reason that they went into PR overdrive when we protested the Super League was because it was damaging the brand. When it comes to a transfer window, they don't particularly care. No real club ownership does. Roman Abramovich probably did. The rest don't particularly. That's the reality of it. Rodrigo, Xavi Simons, and Gyokeres would cook. It would. Imagine if Real Madrid came in for Wirtz, Liverpool fans' faces after Jude, Tchouaméni, etc. Yeah, that would be crazy. But again, like, they don't tend to spend that sort of money. I wouldn't expect Real Madrid to go and drop 100 million on a Wirtz. I wouldn't. Any worries on Ethan and the Liverpool links? Needs to sign a contract. His agent wants minutes. No, I spoke about this before. The only person that's come out with that is Graham Bailey from TBR Football. He's not a reliable source at all. Zero reliability. You saw the news that we're linked to Eze? Not really. No, I haven't seen much of that. I hadn't seen much of us being linked to Eze, to be honest. Simons or Eze, in your opinion? The thing is, Eze you probably get for about half the price. Long term, I probably prefer Simons. In the immediate term, Eze, because he's been there and done it in the Premier League. But all the talk of 200 mil, I'm hearing different now, but I hope they go and surprise us all. The thing is, I just think the players we're being linked to, there's just no way that we'd even be having the conversations for them if we didn't have plenty of money to spend. Like, if we didn't have plenty of money to spend, we wouldn't have offered 50 million for Dean Huijsen, in my opinion. Yeah, Rodrigo's going to be like Alexis Sanchez if he comes. I agree. I agree. Been watching on 2x speed to catch up with the live. Now you sound like you've been smoking something. You're speaking so slow. Is Rodrigo actually possible? It is. It is. I completely believe that Rodrigo is possible. If he wants to leave Real Madrid and Real Madrid want to make money from him, there aren't many other teams that can do it. And one of the only other teams, by the way, that I would have genuinely feared competing with us for Rodrigo would have been Liverpool. There's no way Liverpool do Rodrigo if they're also doing Florian Wirtz. So if Rodrigo's available, I really do think we get it done. And the only other thing that would have made me concerned about getting Rodrigo would have been whether or not Rodrigo wanted to come to Arsenal or even to England. But supposedly, according to it was Pletigo yesterday, wasn't it? No, it was that Cadena Ser, that Spanish outlet. Supposedly, Rodrigo's agents reached out to Arsenal and opened the conversation. So I think it's possible. Any players you have a bad feeling about? Yeah, I'll tell you who I have a bad feeling about, Nkunku. And maybe that's PTSD. And it's not even PTSD because I really don't think Havertz has been a bad signing. Raheem Sterling is probably the PTSD. Chelsea are desperate to move Nkunku on this summer. And I just have a weird little bad feeling that we might go for it again. And that would wind me up massively. But that's the only one I've got a real bad feeling about. Wirtz to Liverpool, I'm worried. Anyone but Nkunku. He's looked so unimpressive at Chelsea. Yeah. And he's not a striker. And he's not a left winger. He's a 9.5. You'd bring him in if you wanted a profile like Cunha or Joao Pedro. Well, based on this season, I'd rather Cunha or Joao Pedro. So, did you see that Wirtz costs 150 mil? That's a lot of money. I don't think Wirtz is 150 million. I don't think he's 150 million. I think it's closer to like 120, possibly even as low as 100. If Wirtz actually goes to Liverpool, it's a long day. Yeah, it is. It is. Sell Martinelli and Snorregard and buy Wirtz and Rodrigo. Yeah, well, I mean, we're not buying Florian Wirtz, so yeah, we've spoken about Wirtz to Liverpool. I must be the only person that's just not impressed by Xavi Simons. There have been games where I do fear that he can be much in the way that people think Martin Ødegaard can disappear in big tough games. I do have that little bit of a concern about him. Fabrizio's dropped the Wirtz bomber as well. We may as well hear it from Fabrizio as well. What's Fabrizio saying? Always second to the news behind Ornstein, by the way. Liverpool are confident to get Florian Wirtz deal done after fresh contact in the last 24 to 48 hours. Talks ongoing to get the final green light, but Liverpool are now favourites ahead of Bayern in the race for the German gem. Liverpool want to be fast, as per David Ornstein and Sasha Tavalieri. By the way, Sasha Tavalieri, underrated journalist, by the way. Gets a lot of things right. But yeah, there you go. Little. I'm sure there will be a Fabrizio tap in at some point. But there you go. Are you confident Ødegaard will reach his form in the next season? I am. I still have confidence in Ødegaard. I still have. To be honest, he needs to bulk up a bit over the summer. You look at him, like he's always been a fairly lightweight player anyway. You look at him from before the injury to now, he's lost a lot of weight, or he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. Wrapping up Frimpong and Wirtz so early, damn. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. What do you predict is our window? Not hope. I would predict Sesko, Nico Williams, Zubamendi, and a defender that we've not yet heard about, and maybe a backup goalkeeper. That would be my honest prediction. Sami Mokbel's still good, to be fair. Sami Mokbel works for the BBC instead of the Daily Mail now, and he is still good. I bet Fabrizio has an air raid alarm set as for Ornstein post notifications. Is that success for you? Would Sesko, Nico Williams, Zubamendi, an unknown defender? No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. And I'll tell you why. The main reason that wouldn't be success for me would be that if you took out the defender, you kept hold of Kivior, you could spend your way to Rodrigo instead of Nico Williams. And I think Rodrigo is a significantly better purchase than Nico Williams. But that's a prediction. So, hey, we can live in hope. I live in hope that Berta will prove me wrong. But listen, this is going to be the end of the stream. Slightly shorter one, but I do want to go and make a TikTok about the Wirtz situation because that is my actual job. I appreciate you all for joining. The streams over the last few days, we've been hitting like record numbers. Considering I only just came back, that's absolutely sensational. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Please do like and subscribe before you jump off. It does massively help. And there probably won't be a stream tomorrow, to be honest with you. There's no football, so yeah, there probably won't be a stream tomorrow. Then, of course, we've got the final day on Sunday. So the next stream on here will most likely be on Monday. But until then, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will catch you all on the next one. Goodbye.